My boss has locked me away. He said he'd liked me for a long time and couldn't stand the idea of me being with anyone else. So he decided to lock me up in his villa, where I can only see him. Mr. Vale, I like you too. Sitting on the soft mattress, I watched the man standing beside the bed. The last thing I remembered was getting too drunk at the company party last night, and a female colleague offered to take me home. Never expected to wake up in an unfamiliar room with my direct supervisor, Daniel Vale, standing over me. Daniel is dressed in a tailored suit, tall and strikingly handsome, but that usually cool, composed face now replaced by obsession and fervor. He leans down, his thumb gently tracing my cheek. Nina, he murmured, now you can only look at me. Wait, why does that sound so strange? Daniel's strange words startled me, and a guess starts to form. Then he stepped closer, half kneeling by the bed and taking my wrist in his hand. You'll never know how much I love you.
Me?
Wait, that proved my guess entirely. My boss actually did like me.
I'm thrilled.
After all, I've liked him for so long, thinking it was just a hopeless crush. Who knew he felt the same? Shouldn't we just get together now? I hurried to return the confession. Mr. Vale, I've actually loved you for a long time too. Before I could finish, Daniel cut me off. Nina, don't try to fool me. You're clever, using the words I want to hear to trick me, so you can get the chain off. But I'm not letting you out me, huh? His confession had distracted me so much. I'd almost forgotten the chain on my wrist. Other people give flowers when they confess, but Daniel had given me handcuffs. No matter, this misunderstanding would be cleared up at once. I gazed at him affectionately. We both feel the same way.
Mr. Vale.
Daniel stood up as if wounded. I won't be fooled. You haven't eaten yet. I'll get you breakfast. With that, he turned and left the room. Fooled? Fooled by what? I was completely baffled. I fumbled around my pockets. My phone and wallet were gone. Daniel must have taken them. He returned quickly with a small table and set out a hearty breakfast on the bed, a feast for the eyes, both the boss and the breakfast. I stifled the urge to drool and brought up a pressing matter. Mr. Vale, please unlock these chains. I really do love you, and I have work today. I haven't clocked in for today's attendance yet. I need today for my perfect attendance bonus. That last bit was the important point. If my boss was holding me here, my paycheck will take a hit. Daniel, no. Every time I see you smiling at other people without a clue, I want to lock you up like this so you'll know how I feel. I've taken care of your leave at the company, and I also told your family the company sent you on a business trip. Just stay here peacefully. Oh my. I looked at him and saw he meant it. Daniel usually acted reasonable and composed. I never guessed he carried such possessiveness. Part of me was scared, but having secretly loved him for so long made my emotions messy and conflicted. Daniel, stay put and your salary will still be paid. Everything I have will be yours. My reflexive reply was, thank you,
Mr. Vale.
I quickly added with a miserable face. But I'd rather keep my health insurance. I figure if I'm locked up, he probably won't pay into that. Daniel paused for a beat, then said quickly, I'll take care of that. Relief washed over me. Consider it paid leave, and no one would be calling me about work. Perfect. Daniel fussed over me at breakfast, insisting on feeding me, and I went along with it to keep him happy. He seemed content, although his expression didn't change much. Light creases at the corners of his eyes betrayed a small private joy. I felt a little pleased with myself. By the way, Mr. Vale, there's a concert in a week by my favorite singer. I'd like to go for just one day. Surely he'd agree. His answer was immediate and flat. No, wait. Would I already love you? I'd said those words several times already, but Daniel seemed to ignore them. He didn't believe me. So I decided to prove it to him. I grabbed the lapel of his suit and, in front of his surprised face, kissed him. Daniel didn't expect me to be so forward. His pupils widened. Contrary to his cold persona, his lips were soft. I couldn't help the urge to taste him at that moment. He froze. After I kissed him, a flush spread from his ear to his cheek. His reaction was intense. It looked like a first kiss. Oddly enough, so did mine. What to do next? I didn't even have my phone, so I couldn't check anything. As I tried to think, I suddenly let go of his collar and fell aside, clutching my stomach. Ugh. What the hell? At the same time, I heard Daniel's surprised voice. You hate me that much? Daniel's voice cracked, the heartbreak in his tones so raw it almost made me forget the acid rising in my throat. No, you idiot. I gasped, clutching my stomach harder. I'm going to. I didn't finish the sentence. I scrambled off the bed, ignoring the clatter of the chain, and bolted for the ensuite bathroom. I barely made it to the porcelain throne before the hearty breakfast, and the previous night's tequila made a grand reappearance. So much for a romantic first kiss. I was heaving, miserable, and sweating when I felt a cool hand on my back. Daniel was there. He wasn't recoiling in disgust. He was kneeling on the expensive tiles in his tailored suit, holding my hair back with one hand and rubbing my back with the other. "It's okay," he whispered, though his voice was trembling. "Get it all out." When I finally slumped back against the bathtub, drained and shivering, he wiped my face with a warm, damp towel. The obsession in his eyes had dimmed, replaced by frantic worry. "I'll call a doctor," he said, reaching for his pocket. "I didn't know. I thought my touch repulsed you." "Daniel," I croaked, grabbing his sleeve. "I'm not repulsed.
I'm hungover.
You fed me eggs Benedict and heavy cream coffee after a night of binge drinking. My stomach isn't protesting your love, it's protesting the cholesterol." He froze. "Hungover."
Yes.
"That colleague, Jessica? She kept handing me shots. I think I drank half the bar." I closed my eyes, resting my head against the cool wall. "So, unless you poison the eggs, we're good. Also, can I have some water? And maybe a mint?" The tension leaked out of his shoulders. He let out a breath that sounded like a laugh. I thought, never mind. He picked me up, effortlessly I might add, and carried me back to the bed. He changed the sheets with efficient speed, then tucked me in. "Rest," he commanded, the authority returning to his voice, though softer now. "I will get you water and medicine. And I'm keeping the chains on." "Of course you are," I mumbled, burrowing into the duvet. "Just don't dock my pay for sick leave." 3 days passed. Life as a captive of Daniel Vale was confusingly comfortable. The chain was long enough to reach the bathroom and the window seat, but not the door. The food improved significantly after the vomit incident, mostly porridge and soups until my stomach settled. The problem wasn't the captivity. It was the boredom and the looming anxiety about my quarterly performance review. "Daniel," I said on the 4th morning. He was sitting in an armchair in the corner of the room, reading a report on his tablet. He had moved his home office into my prison room, presumably to ensure I didn't gnaw through my own wrist to escape. "Yes, Nina?" He didn't look up. "I need my laptop." He lowered the tablet. His gaze was dark, calculating. "So you can email the police? Or send a location pin to your friends?" "So I can finish the Q3 budget analysis," I snapped. "The deadline is Friday." "You said you handled my leave, but if that report isn't filed, the board will come down on the department. That reflects poorly on you, Mr. Vale." Daniel stared at me. He stood up and walked over to the bed, leaning down until our noses nearly touched. "You are locked in a soundproof villa by a man who has confessed to stalking you, and you are worried about the Q3 budget?" "I take pride in my work. Also, if I get a poor performance review, my bonus multiplier drops from 1.5x to 1.2x. That's a difference of $3,000. Are you going to reimburse me?"
He stared at me for a long time.
Then, unexpectedly, he smirked. It transformed his face, making him look less like a villain and more like the man I'd been crushing on for 2 years. "Fine," he said. 10 minutes later, he returned with my laptop. He had, however, installed some sort of monitoring software.
No social media.
No email clients other than the internal company server. "I can see every keystroke," he warned, unlocking one cuff to let me sit at the desk he'd brought in. He cuffed my left ankle to the desk leg instead.
Deal.
I cracked my knuckles and opened Excel. For the next few hours, the room was silent except for the clicking of my keyboard and the scratching of his pen.
It was domestic.
Strangely, weirdly domestic. "You missed a pivot table error on page 4, Daniel said suddenly. He was standing behind me, looking over my shoulder. I did not. I squinted.
Oh.
I did. "Fix it. And change the projection graph to blue. Red looks too aggressive. You're micromanaging me while kidnapping me? I'm your boss, Nina. Kidnapping doesn't void the organizational chart." I laughed. I couldn't help it. And when I looked up, he was looking at my neck, his eyes dilated. The air grew thick. "Nina," he murmured. "Why aren't you afraid?" I spun the chair around. "Because I told you, Daniel. I like you. I've liked you since you chewed out the client who tried to grope me at the Christmas gala 2 years ago. I've liked you since I saw you feeding stray cats behind the office building." He flinched. "You saw that?"
Yes.
"You're not as scary as you think you are." I reached out, risking it, and took his hand. "Unlock the ankle cuff. Let's have dinner downstairs. I promise I won't run." "You're lying," he whispered, but he didn't pull his hand away. "You're just saying it to get free." "If I wanted to run," I said calmly, "I would have hit you with this laptop charger 5 minutes ago. You have a very exposed jugular." He blinked. Then, a dark flush covered his cheeks. "God, I love you." The dynamic shifted after that. I was still chained at night, but during the day, I was allowed to roam the upper floor of the villa.
Then the doorbell rang.
It was a week into my vacation. Daniel had gone out to pick up groceries. He refused to let delivery drivers near the house and had left me cuffed to the heavy oak bed frame again. I heard the front door code being punched in. Daniel? I called out. Did you get the spicy chips? Footsteps clicked up the stairs. Not Daniel's heavy stride. These were heels. The bedroom door pushed open. It wasn't Daniel. It was Jessica, the colleague who had taken me home the night I was taken. Well, Jessica sneered, leaning against the doorframe. She looked impeccable, but her eyes were cold. I knew he kept you somewhere. Jessica? I sat up, rattling the chain. Thank God. You have to help. Wait. How do you have the door code? She laughed, walking into the room. She didn't look concerned for my safety. She looked jealous. I've been tracking Daniel for months, she said, pacing around the room. I've been trying to get his attention for 3 years. I slip into his schedule. I fix his problems. I even drugged you that night so you'd make a fool of yourself and get fired. But what does he do? He carries you out like a princess and disappears. My blood ran cold. You drugged me? Just a little something in your drink. I expected you to vomit on him in the car. I didn't expect him to bring you here. She looked at the chain on my wrist with distaste.
He's sick.
You know that, right? He's a psycho. If I release this to the press, he's finished. The Vale empire crumbles. She pulled out her phone and aimed it at me. Smile, Nina. You're about to be the victim in the scandal of the decade. Don't, I said, my voice hard.
Why?
You want to stay his pet. If you post that, the stock price tanks. If the stock price tanks, my stock options become worthless. I have a 5-year vesting plan, Jessica. She stared at me. Are you insane? Also, I continued, stalling, Daniel isn't the only one who knows things. I know you've been funneling marketing budget into your cousin's shell company. I saw the invoices while I was doing the Q3 analysis yesterday. Jessica went pale. You can't prove that. I saved the file to a scheduled email. If I don't log in every 24 hours to cancel it, it goes straight to the board of directors and the IRS. It was a total lie. I hadn't done that. But Jessica didn't know that. She lowered the phone. You bewitch. Get out, I said evenly. And don't come back. If you try to expose him, I expose you.
Mutually assured destruction.
Jessica glared at me, trembling with rage, but the threat of prison outweighed her jealousy. She spun on her heel and stormed out. I heard the front door slam just as Daniel's car pulled into the driveway. When Daniel rushed into the room 5 minutes later, carrying 2 bags of groceries, he found me sitting calmly on the bed. I saw a car leaving, he said, breathless, eyes wide with panic. Who was here? Did they hurt you? It was Jessica, I said. Daniel dropped the bags. Eggs cracked on the floor. Jessica? Did you tell her to call the police? He looked defeated, like a man awaiting the executioner.
No.
I blackmailed her into silence regarding her embezzlement scheme, I said, pointing to the mess. You dropped my spicy chips. Daniel stared at the broken eggs, then at me. He walked over, fell to his knees beside the bed, and buried his face in my lap. His shoulders shook. I was so scared. He muffled against my leg. I thought you'd leave. I told you, I said, stroking his hair. I'm not going anywhere. But we really need to talk about the lock on the front door. Jessica, guess the code? 1234? Really, Daniel? The concert was the turning point. 2 days after the Jessica incident, Daniel came into the room with a velvet box. I said no to the concert, he said stiffly. I know. I've accepted my fate. I'll just listen to the album and cry, I replied dramatically. However, he continued, I bought the venue. Excuse me? Not the venue. That would be excessive. I bought the VIP box. Private entrance. Private exit. Tinted glass. No one can see you. And he opened the box. Inside wasn't a diamond ring. It was a pair of silver bracelets. They were beautiful, delicate, and connected by a very thin, very strong chain. Handcuffs? I asked. Designer handcuffs? If you wear these and stay attached to me, we can go. He looked at me with that puppy dog vulnerability again. Please don't run. I sighed and held out my wrist. Put them on. The concert was electric. Being attached to Daniel meant we had to stand close. Very close. When my favorite song came on, a slow, romantic ballad, I felt him tense up beside me. The crowd below was swaying, thousands of lights from cell phones creating a sea of stars. In the darkness of the VIP box, the power dynamic felt different. I turned to him. Daniel. Yes. I'm not running. I know you say that, but... I grabbed his tie and pulled him down. This time I didn't stop. I kissed him, pouring every ounce of frustration, affection, and pent-up energy into it. He froze for a second, then he broke. He kissed me back with a hunger that made my knees weak. He tasted like mints and expensive whiskey. His arm went around my waist, pulling me so flush against him that the chain between our wrists went slack. "I love you," I whispered against his lips. "You crazy, possessive lunatic. I love you." He rested his forehead against mine, his breathing ragged. "I'm never letting you go, Nina.
Good.
Because my rent is due next week, and I'm moving in with you." He laughed, a genuine, joyful sound.
Done.
The transition from captive to partner was smoother than expected, mostly because Daniel was desperate to please me, and I was desperate to fix his diet and his work-life balance. We returned to the villa. He went to unlock the silver cuffs. "Wait," I said. He paused, the key in his hand. "Leave them on for tonight," I said, giving him a look that made him drop the key. That night, the dynamic shifted permanently. He might have been the one with the physical key, but I was the one holding the leash. The next morning, I woke up in the master bedroom, no chains. The sun was streaming in. I smelled coffee. I walked downstairs wearing one of his shirts. Daniel was in the kitchen making pancakes. He looked up, tense, checking the doors. "I left the front door unlocked," he said, his voice tight. "It's a test. For me, not you. If you want to leave, you can." I looked at the open door. Beyond it lay freedom, my crappy apartment, and my solitary life. I looked at Daniel. Handsome, rich, devoted, currently flipping pancakes, and looking at me like I was the only star in his galaxy. I walked over to the front door. Daniel flinched. I closed it and engaged the deadbolt. Then I walked to the kitchen counter. "You burned that one," I said, pointing to the pan. Daniel let out a breath that sounded like a sob. He dropped the spatula and wrapped his arms around me, burying his face in my neck. "Marry me," he mumbled into my skin. "I'll transfer half my assets to you today. Just marry me." "Prenup?" I asked.
No prenup.
"Take it all. Just take me with it." "Okay," I said, patting his back. "But first, we need to go to the office. I really do need to clock in. Perfect attendance, remember?" 6 months later. "Mr. Vale, your wife is on line 1. Daniel Vale, the terrifying CEO of Vale Enterprises, stopped mid-sentence during the board meeting.
He tapped his earpiece.
"Nina." "Hey." My voice crackled in his ear. "I'm in the break room. The coffee machine is broken again. I'll have a new one installed within the hour. Are you okay? Did anyone look at you? I can come down there." "Daniel, sit down.
I'm fine.
I just wanted to tell you that Jessica's replacement starts today, so please don't glare at him. And I forgot my lunch. I'll bring it down. You're in a board meeting. They can wait." I sighed on the other end of the line.
Fine.
"But bring the leftovers from last night. And, Daniel." "Yes, my love. I love you. I love you more. Obsessively. Madly. I know. See you in 5. I hung up the phone and leaned back in my chair in the finance department. My wrist felt light without the heavy watch I usually wore, but I touched the silver bracelet on my left hand. Daniel wore the matching one. People thought it was just a fashion statement. They didn't know that mine had a hidden clasp that only his bracelet could open. I smiled, opening a spreadsheet. My salary had doubled. My husband was a billionaire who worshipped the ground I walked on. And I still had perfect attendance. Being kidnapped was the best career move I ever made.